James, co-founder and CEO of Jambo. We're building the world's largest mobile on-chain network, starting with the Jambo phone, so I don't know where the camera is. $99 smartphone, most powerful Web3 smartphone out there. Comes pre-installed with an array of Web3 applications, but basically we're building a parallel mobile ecosystem disrupting the duopoly of Apple and Google. So first of all, to everyone, I'm ethnically Chinese, but my family's third generation African from the Congo in Central Africa, so I grew up my entire life there. And when you look at regions like Africa, our largest market right now is Latin America, like Brazil, you go through issues like cross-border payments, remittances, banking the unbanked, right? And this is due to hyperinflation, high transaction fees, and a lack of access to banking, where this is where neobanks are more prevalent. So for Jambo, we realized all these issues begins and ends with mobile, and that is where we started with Jambo. But at the end of the day, make one thing clear, it's not like we come into these regions and say, hey guys, look at this thing called cryptocurrency and Web3 rails that helps you circumvent legacy gatekeepers. It's more like Nigeria is already the top 10 country yearly, P2P Bitcoin transaction volumes. Botswana just issued on the first SEC licenses for crypto out of the 54 countries in Africa. Kenya, one of the largest business corridors. So for us, it's providing them access to a global financial ecosystem within the Jambo phone with our Web3 partners and bridging them to the Web3 apps that we know. But it is already very prevalent, the opportunity in the region. So I think if you look at the three emerging markets, right, Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, very broadly, I think Latin America is like 10, 20 years ahead of Africa, right? Both very young demographics. I say this because in Latin America and Brazil, they use Pix, right? Just like in Kenya, they use M-Pesa, but it's very fractionalized. It's not cross-country, just in that specific region. So when you are dealing with trying to expand to this entire continent, right? People think of Africa as just a country, even Latam sometimes. But you're dealing with thousands, of languages, billions of people, 1.4 billion. So the challenge is getting things international, cross-border, and not fractionalizing the liquidity in one region. For Jambo, though, our target demographic is a very young age, which is why we're very fortunate in these emerging markets. Younger people, they're very smart there. They understand hyperinflation. Like our devs in Argentina in the deep bear market still wanted cryptocurrencies as a payment rather than local currencies, right? You look at Mexico today, like over 3% of their GDP is just from remittances, sending money back. And right now, that can be an order of magnitude a lot cheaper if you're using Web3 technologies. So I think for Jambo, one of the biggest things is having the language barrier, having the cultural barrier, make sure we can get into each of these regions because emerging markets and onboard the next billion users is our goal.
$99 for the phone, really working to displace some of the other smartphone providers out there. How did you get the price so low?
Great question. So, everyone knows supply chain is in Asia and China. Ethnically being Chinese, it took us still a year and a half to source 3 factories where we were able to invest in them and they invested in us to be incentively in line. If you look at most deep-end hardware products in the Web3 space today, there usually is a backlog of pre-orders and a lot of time that takes in coming. We have shipped a bit over 850,000 phones last year to 128 countries. So we're solving our distribution funnel, and the supply chain and manufacturing was the largest bottleneck usually for a deep-end project. So very, very glad, I guess, being ethnically Chinese and having that access to supply chain. Look at just how on-chain activity is formulated today. Incentive structures are for people that are already in the space to airdrop farm, to do various transactions on-chain, to get rewards and incentives from L1s, L2s that are newly launching. But we all know the global south and use cases like stablecoin, hedging against hyperinflation, using it for remittances, going through the transaction legacy gatekeeper system is where the sexy crypto moniker comes from, where investors and VCs are also investing. But it also is a very good question, like where has the last 3 or 5, IPO companies in Africa or in Latam come out of? It's not as prevalent. There's definitely a lot of fractionalized difficulties. So I'll make that point very clear. But I'm very excited. I wake up and go to sleep thinking about distribution, and that is something very important to our team. And I think that is what's going to help onboard the next billion users.